Welcome to Flyp Academy. In this video we're going to delve into the fascinating character of Juliet, and the various tenets of her personality and actions throughout the play. This is a very common question in the GCSE exam, so it's crucial to develop a really solid preparatory essay plan. We're going to structure this essay quite simply, with all the key points you need for the following question. Juliet represents the epitome of youth, innocence and romanticism, which contrasts with the tragic end of the play, and to some extent her naivete foreshadows this. She undergoes a transformation as she falls deeply in love with Romeo, and thenceforth she is portrayed as intelligent and individual in her thinking. Juliet's relationship with Romeo is portrayed as intense and passionate, and she challenges traditional gender roles and expectations by being capable of making her own decisions. In your introduction, you may briefly touch on the following points that we'll be covering this video. Juliet represents the epitome of youth, innocence and romanticism, which contrasts with the tragic end of the play, and to some extent her naivete foreshadows this. She undergoes a transformation as she falls deeply in love with Romeo, and thenceforth she is portrayed as intelligent and individual in her thinking. Juliet's relationship with Romeo is portrayed as intense and passionate, and she challenges traditional gender roles and expectations by being capable of making her own decisions. As always, don't spend more than a sentence or two on each point, and make sure you're using literary devices that connect the points together. Given these points, we could conclude our introduction with a statement such as the following. This statement sets the frame of the essay and the points you will later delve into. Now let's look at some of the stronger arguments you can make, alongside their relevant quotes and analysis. First, we ought to consider how Shakespeare demonstrates Juliet as being a symbol of youth and innocence. Take a look at the following quote from Act 2, Scene 2. This famous quote demonstrates Juliet's innocence and romanticism. Juliet calls for Romeo, unaware of his presence nearby, and her heartfelt plea reflects her naivety, as she questions the barriers that prevent their love. The repetition of Romeo's name emphasizes Juliet's intense longing for him, and by calling out his name twice, she highlights her yearning and the desperate desire to be with him. This repetition conveys her intense emotional attachment, showing the depth of her love and the intensity of her feelings. The phrase also showcases Juliet's introspective nature and intelligence, because she questions not Romeo's physical whereabouts but rather his identity as a Montague, a member of the rival family. Through this question, Juliet ponders the significance of names and the constraints they impose on their love. She contemplates the societal barriers that prevent their union, questioning why fate has brought them together while simultaneously placing them on opposing sides. Juliet's contemplation reveals her capacity for critical thinking, her ability to reflect on their circumstances, and her willingness to challenge societal norms. The next important point we should discuss is how Juliet undergoes a transformation as she falls deeply in love with Romeo. Take a look at the following quote from Act 2, Scene 2. This quote showcases Juliet's intelligence and her ability to see beyond superficialities, because the metaphor of comparing a name to a rose emphasizes that its true essence lies beyond labels. Here, Juliet questions the significance of names, suggesting that their love is not defined by their feuding families. She expresses her belief in the power of genuine affection, emphasizing that true love transcends labels and external appearances. Shakespeare therefore demonstrates Juliet's maturity and wisdom beyond her years to the audience. One literary device employed in this quote is metaphor. Juliet compares a name to a rose, a symbol of beauty and love. By asserting that a rose would retain its essence and fragrance regardless of its name, Juliet suggests that the same applies to individuals. The quote encapsulates the theme of identity and challenges the notion that names hold inherent value or define a person's worth. The last, and perhaps most significant, point to analyze in this essay about Juliet's character relates to how Shakespeare depicts the intensity of Juliet's love and heightened passion towards Romeo. Take a look at the following quote from Act 3, Scene 2. In this quote, Juliet reveals her unwavering love and devotion to Romeo. Her passionate plea reflects her willingness to sacrifice everything for their love, even in the face of tragedy. Therefore, Shakespeare showcases Juliet's bravery and willingness to defy societal expectations, ultimately choosing love over obedience. Shakespeare employs personification in the phrase "he will make the face of heaven so fine," attributing human qualities to the stars. This emphasizes the beauty and impact of Romeo's presence even in death. There is use of metaphor in the line "take him and cut him out in little stars." Romeo is compared to stars, symbolizing his enduring and celestial nature. This metaphor suggests that Romeo's memory and legacy will shine brightly, captivating the world. This quote by Juliet also contains hyperbole in the line that all the world will be in love with Night, which is used the dramatic effect because this exaggeration intensifies the impact of Romeo's transformation into stars, suggesting that his influence will be so captivating that it will enchant the entire world. Finally, symbolism is present in the setting of Night. In this context, night represents darkness, mystery, and the realm of passion and love. First, we ought to consider how Shakespeare presents violence as a physical manifestation of conflict. Take a look at the following quote from Act 3, Scene 1. "I pray thee, good Mercutio, let's retire. The day is hot, the Capulets abroad. And if we meet we shall not 'scape a brawl. For now, these hot days, is the mad blood stirring." In her final moments, faced with the prospect of living without Romeo, Juliet chooses death over a life without her beloved. This quote thus reveals Juliet's strength of character and her courage to take matters into her own hands, as well as her loyalty and unwavering commitment to Romeo. The dagger can be seen as a symbol of agency and empowerment because by taking control of her own fate, Juliet asserts her autonomy and refuses to be a passive victim of circumstance. Furthermore, the rusting of the dagger in its sheath symbolizes the decay and permanence of death. As Juliet implores the dagger to rust, she wishes for her life to end and for the instrument of her death to decay and become useless. This imagery emphasizes the finality of her decision and the irreversible consequences of her actions, and also consolidates the final tone of the play as being irrevocably a tragedy. The phrase "O happy dagger" carries a paradoxical tone, which is another example of the ironic contrasts Shakespeare employs throughout the play to dramatic effect. While the word happy usually conveys joy, in this context, it reflects Juliet's relief and almost ironic sense of happiness in finding a way to be reunited with Romeo in death. It suggests that death is preferable to a life without their love, highlighting the intensity and depth of their emotions. Now that we have covered the key points about how Shakespeare presents the character of Juliet, you should also be aware that you need to mention some contextual points to achieve the highest possible grade. Although you don't want to include the following analysis as a paragraph or argument by itself, consider how these contextual points and other ideas may be embedded within your written essay. Juliet's character challenges societal norms of the time, where women were expected to be obedient and submissive. The play highlights the limited agency and power women had in Renaissance society through the tragic arc of Juliet's character. Juliet's rebellion against her family's wishes and her pursuit of love reflect the changing attitudes towards women during the Renaissance period. Shakespeare ultimately presents Juliet as a complex and multidimensional character, defying the stereotypes of women in his time. When writing a conclusion, your aim should be to quickly and succinctly consolidate your points and final argument. When discussing the character of Juliet, we urge you to not add extra points, ideas, or contextual information to your conclusion that you haven't already discussed. Whereas in the introduction you framed what's to come, in your conclusion you simply fuse your analysis to hit home your argument. This concludes our video analyzing how Shakespeare presents Juliet in the play Romeo and Juliet. In the following videos we will be doing more character study analysis, looking at themes and motifs, and essay plans for these topics.